Okay, here we are at station 3, conduction. For conduction, our materials are going to be a 100 milliliter beaker, hot water, which we have here, hot pads, but I'm actually going to cross out hot pads because we're not using those today, a metal spoon, a wooden popsicle stick, and we also added a timer, which is going to be just an iPhone. Timer is the last material. We're going to add that onto the list. Okay, here's our procedure. Step 1. Get a 100 milliliter beaker and hold it. Does it feel warm or cold? Answer below. So here I just have my plain old beaker. I'm going to hold it for a minute. It feels not really warm or cold, but I guess if I had to choose, it feels mostly cold. So that's what I'll record below. That's our first step here. Step 1, we hold the beaker, decide if it feels warm or cold. We record the answer down here in the results. And it feels pretty much cold. Okay, step 2, pour hot water into the beaker. Don't spill, obviously. If needed, use hot pads to handle the beaker. Well, I'm not going to use the hot pads. I'm just going to keep that beaker flat on the counter, and that'll keep me from getting my hand burnt. All right, so I'm going to pour my 100 milliliters of hot water into this beaker. Okay, there's our 100 milliliter line. Perfect. Okay, step 3, touch the side of the beaker with 2 fingers. Does it feel warm or cold? Answer below. So I just have 2 fingers, dyed blue, and I'm going to touch the side of the beaker. Feels really hot, actually, very hot to the touch. Okay, so remember, step 3 says to answer below. So we're going to come down here. How does the beaker feel after the hot water has been added? We're going to talk about that down here at the bottom. It feels hot, so that's what I would record. All right, step 4, place a metal spoon and a wooden object. So here's my metal spoon. Here's my wooden object in the water and allow them to sit for 3 minutes. Record how each object feels below. So while this 3-minute timer is going, I'm going to turn to the next page, and I have 4 more questions. This is where I'll be recording some information. So first it asks, how does it compare to the first time you touched the beaker? So what that question is really asking here is, after I touched the beaker, I said it felt hot. I already wrote that down. But now I want to compare that with when I first touched the beaker, when it was empty. So while I'm waiting for this timer to go, I'm going to just answer this next question here. How does it compare? And I might write something about how it felt just sort of tepid, which means at about room temperature, lukewarm. Or it was kind of warm, but also kind of cold, mostly cold, something like that when I first touched it. Now it feels very hot. There's a very noticeable difference after adding the hot water. So I might just write a sentence or 2 describing that. It was mostly cold when I first touched it. Now it's noticeably hotter. All right, the next 2 questions, these refer to what we're going to observe after the 3-minute timer goes off. So we got about 1 minute and a few seconds left to wait. I'm going to read through what we'll be observing and writing about when that timer goes off. So our next question asks, what happened to the metal spoon after it sat in the beaker for 3 minutes? After that, we're asked, what happens to the popsicle stick after it sat in the beaker for 3 minutes? And finally, the last question, why do you think these objects had different temperatures after 3 minutes? So we'll have to wait and see when the timer goes off I'm going to go ahead and test these objects out and see what their temperature is like. Okay, about 20 more seconds. Waiting is the hardest part. All right, fantastic. So, 3 minutes have gone by. I'm going to go ahead and feel the spoon. I think I might take it out here. Wow, yeah, it's really hot. All right, let me take a look at my wooden popsicle stick. It's warm, it's really hot down here on the end, but right about here it starts to feel just normal, almost room temperature, until you get to the end that was dry, and it's almost, I guess you would say it was cold. I don't feel any temperature at all. Contrast that with the spoon. When I touch it right about here, it feels hot. It's a little bit cooler up here, but as you can see, the spoon's quite a bit longer than the popsicle stick. But right about here, it's definitely hot. The popsicle stick, at least go to where it got wet to feel hot. Up here, it just feels totally normal. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and answer those questions. What happened to the metal spoon after it sat in the beaker for 3 minutes? Well, it heated up quite a bit. What happened to the popsicle stick after it sat in the beaker for 3 minutes? Well, the part that was in the water, it felt quite warm, but the rest of it, if it wasn't wet, it didn't feel warm at all. And last but not least, why do you think these objects had different temperatures after 3 minutes? So I'll leave that to you to decide. This has to do again with conduction, the transfer of heat by particles of matter that are touching.